Disclaimer. These are not my voice or audios creds to Storytime for the audio and creds to the respective owners and BTW please like and sub before we get started. Link to Storytime channel in desk.
Story time about this girl who faked being Latina. So there was this girl who went to my school, let's call her Sarah. Sarah is the queen of lies. In every subject we talk about, Sarah always, and I mean always, comes up with a lie that has to do with her life. Here's an example. What if we're talking about Tom Holland? She'd just come in and say, oh yeah, Tom Holland is my dad's friend, I met him once. You know, these types of lies. Another one is when she told everyone she's Latina. It was lunchtime in school and we were talking about where we went for the summer. Sarah tells us that she went to Spain and she started telling us on what she did there and says that she's 50% Latina. She also said that she lived in Spain for 6 years, and if there is any person who lived in Spain for 6 years, they must know how to speak Spanish. And then my friend Kayla asked her what does good morning mean in Spanish. We all know it's buenos dias. My friend Kayla asked Sarah what does good morning mean in Spanish. And then Sarah looks at us, looks back at her food and said, I don't know, I'm still taking Spanish lessons. And we just look at her that she doesn't even know what good morning means in Spanish. If she had lived in Spain for 6 years, she would have known what it meant. I don't know how, but that incident has spread around the entire school. Every person that walks past Sarah just says, Buenos dias, basically teasing her about not knowing what good morning means in Spanish. And then Sarah didn't show up to school for 3 days after that. And oh boy, we haven't even gotten to the crazy part. The 3 days pass and Sarah comes back to school. As soon as she walks into the class, everyone's eyes was on her. She came up, sat in her seat, and this lady showed up to school.
So I used to know this girl who would constantly say things like, guys, sorry, I'm so ugly. I just ruined the whole group photo, I'm sorry. And then everyone would automatically comfort her and be like, no, you're beautiful, you shine. And then she would be like, no, but thank you. And she would do the same thing over and over again, trying to get everyone's attention. So eventually I got tired. So the next time she came to me saying, I'm so ugly, I was like, you know what? You are.
Was a baby. I have a twin brother, Mark, and even though I came into the world 5 minutes after he did, I was always miles ahead of him. By the time he'd learned to roll over, I was crawling everywhere. He was just making spit bubbles when I spoke my first words. But for some reason, Mom and Dad were so proud of everything he did, and I just seemed to get on their nerves. Once, when we were playing with our toys, Mark picked up a mini train excitedly.
Look, Dada, it's a choo-choo.
It's not a choo-choo, Mark.
It's a train.
Oh, be quiet. He's so cute when he talks like that. I don't know why you speak like an annoying teenager already. On our 4th birthday, I only got stupid dolls, while my brother got a super cool toy airplane. He just ripped the box open and started pushing the buttons like a maniac. I picked up the manual and read the instructions. I felt fascinated by how it worked.
Here, Mark, let me give it a try.
No, you leave it to the boys.
I'm 21 years old and my parents are divorced. My dad cheated on my mom when I was 10 and left off to marry his coworker, Kay. In the weeks following the incident, my pregnant mother ended up miscarrying from all the stress. Kay married my dad and gave birth to my half-sister, S. I remember I always hated going to my dad's place. I remember being miserable whenever I was around them. I never had a bond with S and never considered her to be my sister. Anyways, I visited my dad until I was 15 and then moved to another country with my mom where she met P. P was an amazing guy who made my mother smile again. They ended up getting married and my mom gave birth to my twin brothers. When I moved to a new country, I cut off all contact with my dad. I was supposed to visit them every Christmas, but after my brothers were born, I felt like I finally had a real family and I chose to spend my holidays with my mom, P, and little brothers. Well, last year, S was diagnosed with advanced leukemia. I did feel sorry for her, but I was not in any way affected by the news. She finally passed away on the morning of my 21st birthday. Call me heartless, but for me, it was like some neighborhood kid getting sick. I felt guilty about my feelings because I'm very protective towards my brothers, and the mere thought of any harm coming to them makes me anxious.
Extremely creepy story time on how my aunt passed away. So a little background information. About 5 years ago, my aunt had gotten pregnant. It was really weird because a few months before she got pregnant, the doctor told her that she would never be able to have kids. And her husband had been trying for years. Well, I think like 2 weeks after the baby was born, it had passed away. And I don't really know why. For some reason, my mom won't tell me. Which is weird, but anyways, after that, my aunt just felt like a lot of things weren't going the way that she wanted them to in her life. So she decided to get closer with God. Well, every Sunday night, we go to my grandparents' house for a family dinner. And while we were there, my aunt starts going on this whole rampage. She said that God's not giving her the answers that she needs, and I don't really know what she means by answers. So my grandparents kick her out because she's acting like a psycho. Well, the same night at 3 a.m. in the morning, we hear a knocking on the door. And lo and behold, it's my aunt. So my mom lets her in because she feels bad and feels like she's the only one that will actually listen to my aunt. So she makes everybody sit at the kitchen table. And she pulls out a Ouija board from her bag, like for part 2.
I'm a senior in high school and I have a stepsister who is the same age as me. My mom and her dad have been married since we were 10. We both started school again yesterday. A couple of hours into my online class, my mom comes to my room to talk to me. She said that since I have more than enough money to put myself through college, how would I feel about sharing some of that money with my stepsister who does not have enough money? I lost my paternal grandparents 3 years after I lost my dad, so I inherited a lump sum of money. My mom and stepdad had saved some money, but a few crappy things happened to our house, so now apparently there's not enough for my stepsister to go to college. But I don't feel responsible to put her through college. I also don't feel like my paternal relative's money that's now mine should be used for her. She was nothing to them, and if we're being real, we have no relationship beyond living in the same house either. I told my mom no. She said she was disappointed in me. Later on that night, my mom and her husband pulled me into the kitchen to discuss some things. They told me I'm being selfish and that she's my sister. I said even if she is my sister, it's not my job to help her through college, and that's my money, and it will not be used for something I do not approve of. Apparently, I'm the asshole for refusing, according to them. So it got me thinking, should I help my stepsister out?
I have this really funny story time about how someone attempted to rob me at the bank. So the customer comes in, he comes to my station, and he passes me this note. First sign I should have known something was wrong. He passes me the note, and I open it, and it says, give me $5,000 or I'm gonna go NWA on your ass. I didn't know what NWA meant. So I look at him, I'm like, what does NWA mean? And then he just looks at me, he's like, just give me the $5,000. So then I ask him, I say, please swipe your debit card. Like at this point, I should have known he didn't have an account with us, but I'm like, sir, like I can't give you money unless you swipe your card. Like I can't access your account, you don't have your ID, like you have to swipe your card. So then he looks at me, he's like, I don't have an account here. You have to take it out of 50 Cent, Kanye West account. I don't care whose account you gotta take it out of. You gotta give me $5,000. So I look at my manager. And after my manager's like, if you don't have an account here, we can't help you. He looks at me dead in the eyes and says this. If you don't give me $5,000, I'm gonna go home, grab my gun, come here and shoot you both in the...
You went to a public high school? Who was the kid who faked cancer?
It was my best friend, freshman year of high school. She pulled me aside at 7 in the morning and she's like, I have something to tell you. And I'm like, what's up? And she's like, so I went to doctors and they told me that I have cancer and I'm going to surgery in 2 weeks. I told her, I was like, what type of cancer? She's like, blood cancer. I just have to get my blood drained. Excuse me, I was 14, okay? I should have fucking known better. But she was like, yeah, I may die. Pretty much she told me that like something may happen. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting myself prepared to lose my best friend, pretty much. And so the day after surgery comes and I call her during my lunch and I'm like, hey, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm going in right now. I'll make sure someone texts you when I get out. So I'm waiting the entire day. And then at 8 p.m., I get this text from this boy named Sam that I had never heard of, telling me that she's in a coma and on life support.
You went to a public high school?
My cousin Millie is 30 years old and is an ER nurse. Her birthday was a few days ago and we planned a birthday prank which was leaving a fake snake on her cake. All fun and games because we do this every year to every family member. Well, apparently this year Millie didn't want it, so she was pretty pissed at the fact that we didn't. Now, a few days ago while I was in school, I got a call from Millie during lunch. I thought it would be her saying she's picking me up, but it wasn't. She proceeded to tell me that my mother had passed away in a car accident. My heart dropped and I felt like puking. My mother and I don't have the best relationship, but I still love her. Millie began to tell me the details of the death and what exactly happened to the point I hung up on her and called my mother. My mom, who was supposedly at work as a nurse, didn't pick up and I ended up running to the bathroom. I called my dad, bawling my eyes out and telling him what happened. He didn't understand what I was talking about because he called my mom right before I called. He made me explain everything and understandably he was pissed. He picked me up from school and called my mom in the car just to prove that she was alive and okay. That night, my aunt, who's not Millie's mom, called a meeting to her house and we all talked it out. They were all pretty much disgusted with Millie as she tried to justify.
This is a story of the time that I caught my neighbor's mom talking smack about me. So I don't know about you guys, but every single Wednesday in my middle school, we would have a bagel sale. And some people's parents would come in to help out. And my neighbor's mom was one of those parents. And I had a best friend at the time whose mom would also work at the bagel sales. But this best friend of mine, her mom never let us hang out with each other because she felt that I was a bad influence on her. When in reality, it was the complete opposite. She was the one that snuck the boys in her house, if you guys remember that story time, where they peed in a flower pot. So basically her mom wouldn't let us hang out. And sometimes my friend would go with her mom in the morning, basically as a ride to school, and to help out with the bagels too. And one day when she went in with her mom, my neighbor's mom also was there too. So my friend starts eavesdropping into their conversation, and my friend's mom brings me up and says how much of a bad kid I am and a bad influence. And my neighbor's mom was like, "Oh wow, that's my neighbor. Like, we always suspected something bad about her. Our whole entire neighborhood knows this about her." Basically making stuff up about me. So then I go home crying, tell my mom.
Cheers for watching. Comment watched if you watched the whole video. Bye clouds.